Alright, day 10, reading The Power Broker. Started part 6, The Lust for Power, chapter 29, and when the last law was down. Got through pages 639 to 649. This chapter is kind of starting to go through Robert Moses' plans for the Brooklyn Battery Crossing, which was supposed to be a bridge, but there's a tunnel, and kind of outlining what happened, what thwarted his attempts to make a bridge that would have crossed from the lower tip of Manhattan to Brooklyn. I mean, and essentially what happened, I'm still getting through it, but is like Robert Moses ruined so many other places in the city by driving streets through them and just like destroying, in a lot of ways, natural beauty, like in Wood Hill Park is an example, by just running a highway through it. He wanted to run a highway through Battery Park, the park at the tip of lower Manhattan, which would have necessitated a ton of concrete pillars to uphold the on-ramp. It would have blocked the view of the ocean from so much of the area down there. It would have shaded the park and many of the bottom floors of the buildings down there, and ruined what was some of the most valuable real estate in the world, all because he wanted a bridge. So this chapter is kind of just outlining what ended up stopping him, and it was really the weight and pull. I mean, we'll see it once I get to the end, but the weight and pull of, you know, the city's gentry, kind of the most powerful aristocrats in the city at the time, who not only appreciated the beauty of the view of the southern tip of Manhattan that a bridge would obliterate. You wouldn't be able to look out over the harbor, but all of the history that and significance of that harbor had. And Robert Caro goes into detail of the history. I think that my understanding of the history of New York in the founding of the nation is a little bit murky, but like little things like what Caro is outlining to show the significance of the history. Like, I didn't know that George Washington, our first president, was sworn in New York on the balcony of Federal Hall. And so I don't know when it's going to be, but don't worry, we're going to be taking a trip to New York, and I've got the notes in the app to stop by Federal Hall alongside some other places to really just appreciate the significance of the area. This is another reason why it's so awesome to go to Boston. I think it's much more apparent, but I definitely have been able to appreciate to an extent the significance of the history of New York, and I'm going to be able to do so in an even more significant way going to the city now. The day after the first reading of the Declaration of Independence in Boston, the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence in New York was the day after, July 9th, 1776, at City Hall Park. And Caro is going into all this history to explain what the kind of aristocracy at the time was thinking when they revolted at Robert Moses' plans to try to build a bridge, just kind of obliterating this area. And Robert Caro does another kind of exposition just talking about the significance of the beauty of the southern tip of Manhattan because of, the majestic human engineering of the skyscrapers, but also because of the free space that ends just abruptly right after the skyscrapers are their most dense, in the form of Battery Park. And he illustrates it beautifully, obviously. So just kind of reveling in that and really soaking in and appreciating the city for what it is because of the mastery that Caro has in illustrating what is there today, what is so beautiful, and why that could have been devastated. I think it's hard to, when we see things as they are, like I've been to Wood Hill Park, I got to experience it, and you experience it as it is, like with the road through it, right? And for me, given that that's my first experience with it, that's just how it is. I couldn't really imagine it not having that highway through it. And I think because of that, I'm not able to appreciate what was lost to as much of an extent as if I had been able to see, the park or other parts of New York before Robert Moses touched them. But this kind of exposition where Caro really tries to set the stage to outline why the park, Battery Park, is so beautiful, why the lower tip of Manhattan is so beautiful, why it's so significant, to then set the stage for why there was such a big fight to keep Moses from building a bridge, not only obstructing the view, but having to build out the infrastructure to create the on-ramp that would just like totally decimated the park, is so poignant and valuable. And I love going to the city to kind of see this stuff in person, but it is really so vividly illustrated here. But it's made much more enriched when you've been there yourself, right? When you've been able to kind of see, I'm not a New York native or anything, but I've been enough times to really soak in the city, in a lot of ways because I've been going while reading this book. I've gone because I'm reading this book to just really be submerged in the world of the power broker physically and kind of help bring to life with just added vibrance what Caro already outlines so masterfully. But when you see it for yourself, when you're at the park, I mean, I've been to Battery Park a few times. You can really just like appreciate the majesty of the view, not only of the harbor, but of the skyscrapers of Manhattan, and being able to like walk into the caverns of the canyons of the city at daytime and at nighttime. And for me, it is a majestic experience. Majestic is not quite the right word, but it definitely fits. Something about knowing that on Earth, this city, and particularly borough, is the epitome of so many different parts of humanity. And like, I'm gonna stumble through this, but there's something about being in a city that's like, this is kind of like the best that the world has to offer. Obviously that's like up for debate, but it's just like, there was a time, I think, in the 20th century, this was the greatest city on earth, New York City. I mean, you could still argue that it is today, but it's so dense. At the time, I don't think there was not skyscrapers equal to this anywhere else. The density of them, the density of the people, the density of the people of significance in this place. Like when you go there, you kind of like feel all of that. And certainly going to New York City is the first time that I have experienced that type of feeling of being like, oh, this is the world at its peak. I'm from Colorado. There's majesty here, particularly natural majesty. But there's something about it's like going to the edge of the earth and looking off when you go to New York. And you're like, this is it. This is as good as it gets. This is the best for good and bad of what like humanity, or particularly like America, has to offer. Obviously there is a vast world out there, but you do get this sense of like you're looking at the world from the top when you go to a city like Manhattan. And he outlines that here, and then outlines that Farmer Moses wanted to just mess that up because he wanted a bridge because of his own ego or because of his own lust for power, as the part in the book is called. But yeah, so really, this last few pages, I'm just kind of reveling in the significance of the writing and of the significance of New York as a city in a much deeper way. I don't know if there's any real, kind of lessons to be drawn here, and I have been reflecting on that. Like, I need to be careful in the way that I'm engaging with the reading. There's not always necessarily like some deeper lesson to be drawn. So I'm kind of just reading to enjoy and learn. But what is bubbling to the surface is that I do want to make sure that I'm remembering is, the significance of the city in the history of the Republic of the United States of America as well. That George Washington walked the streets, that there were battles fought there to secure the Republic's freedoms, that the Revolutionary War was fought in New York. I had a little bit of insight into that before, but the way that Caro talks about, there were mornings on the harbor when they had been emptied the night before, and then like a fleet of British ships, 130 ships, a forest of masts just showed up. That kind of visceral imagery, and like realizing that it's like, okay, this has been the landscape of so many layers of history, considerable significance to America, and I am an American, a proud American, that because of where I've been born and molded, I've embodied a lot of the values that were set in place at this time and in this place. And so it feels like there's just like a thread, this powerful thread that connects me to that time. And I feel it reading these passages and also going there myself and walking the streets. And we're going to do some of that. We're going to get there. I don't know what day it's going to be. Maybe day 40 of reading The Power Broker, but we're going to get there. And I don't know what form or shape this video situation is going to take at the time when we do, but I'll bring you along. I'm filming this on a pretty big camera right now. I don't know if I'm going to be ripping around the city with that, but we'll see. And so, yeah. And when the last law was down, we'll see what happens next, but sounds like the aristocracy, Gotham's gentry, prevails in keeping Moses from messing up Battery Park, because I've gotten to experience it, and the planned bridge is a tunnel there. I don't know if I've driven through it yet, but that'll be one for us, and I'll make sure we get that on film when we go. So yeah, this was a very kind of map pulling up section of reading, so beautiful, illustrative, and enjoyable, and setting the stage for what's to come. So that's day 10, and I'll catch you on the next one.